working, all of that fun stuff that we do to make sure that the event goes smoothly. So let me know where you're joining from in the chat. So wherever you're watching, there'll be a chat feature. I'm just going to check the streams are working, and like we're here. So yes, welcome everybody. If you're missing this, we will do a replay. So yes, wherever you are, wherever you're joining, hopefully you can see me and everything's working okay. There has been some interesting fun today with technology, so I apologize if things aren't quite to scratch as they normally are, but we're keeping it real here so people can get to do it. So do let me know where you are in the chat. So I can see Sheridan Interiors, Cornwall, Ontario. Lewis from Hartford can CT. I'm not sure what CT is. Hi, Jody. So we're going to start in about 2-3 minutes time. We'll just let everybody get in, get the notifications going. Hi, Nicole from South London. I'm in Watford today. So I'm on location, mobile, and live streaming from Watford in this beautiful hotel. It's kind of the middle of English countryside, it feels. Let me just mute my thing. That was just my alert to say that the live has kicked in. So that's all good. Hi, Andy from Manchester. Katrina, hello. Heather from Tucson, Arizona. Danny from San Jose, California. So brilliant to have all here tonight. And I just want to give you some real simple tips that you can go and apply to help you build your personal brand. Hi, Krisha from Southern California, and Bogdana from Belgrade. Oh, hi, Bogdana. Welcome. So personal branding obviously has become front and center more and more these days because of the rise of social media and the rise of personal marketing and how employees and business more than just employee now, they're an ambassador for the companies they represent. And more people are consuming content, consuming media online that allows us to influence people by building a personal brand. And if we think about personal branding, it really is that element of helping people understand and leave remembering and clearly knowing what you're all about. Now, the problem with personal branding is there's lots of things we want people to remember, but I'll blame social media here. And social media has given us very short memory spans. So when you think about it, we easily forget things. How many of you have downloaded something from social media or done something on social media and then you can't actually remember it? It's horrendous that this happens, that we can't remember what we on social media. And so when we're on social media, it's very often we forget things really quick. So from our point of view, that was really funny, by the way. A lady from housekeeping came to see me just as I was live. So this is live. So when we're trying to build our personal brand, there can be lots of things that we want people to know about us. The downside for us is we can only let them know, and we want something to be remembered. Hi, Annette from Oxford. So as much as we want them to know this and this and this and this and this and this and this, we have to really focus on some key things that are going to move the needle for us. What is, and think about it like this, you have a chance meeting with somebody. What would you want them to know? And it's really important that you write this down. If you had a 30-second encounter with somebody, what would you want them to remember? Hi, Reggie. What would you want them to remember if you had a 30-second encounter? Hi, David from Switzerland. And you need to write this down because in a 30-second encounter, it suddenly becomes important to really go, What's going to keep me remembered and be remembered for the right reasons? Now, of course, you want to be remembered as a nice person, a trustworthy person, all of those good human being characteristics. That's all good. But you want to be known for one key reason. And this is the 30-second test. What is the one thing that you're going to thread through all of your content that allows you to be remembered? Everybody's still with me. I know the internet signal is a bit patchy today, but what's the one thing you want to be remembered by if you had a chance encounter with people? Because if you think about it, social media is often, with our posts, that chance encounter. Now, of course, the more people see you, the more you can add to that message, but you still have to have this thread through everything you produce, everything you create, everything you say, everything you do that leaves people with that 30-second moment. So that's the first thing. Simple steps to build your personal brand. What's the one thing you want people to remember if they had a 30-second chance encounter with you? Which, if you're posting consistently on social media, people are having 30-second or 10-second even chance encounters with you via your content every single day. Every single day. So in every piece of content, in every post, you've got to thread that key message through. And of course, like I said, we want to be trustworthy and we want to be all of those things. But what's the key thing we want to be remembered for? And I would argue, depending on what business you're in, you want it to be the result or the problem you solve. The result, the achievement you bring for clients, or the result you bring for clients, or be remembered as the problem that you can solve for clients. This is especially true if you're a small business owner where you are salesperson, marketer, and all of those things in one camp. So you need to kind of pick and go, this is what I'm going to be remembered for. People make a lot of money being remembered for one thing. Now, I'm sure, hi, David, hi, Charles, hi, Sheridan. So Sheridan's put some good descriptors there. Creative, solution-driven, passionate, and compassionate. I like all of those things, but I think it should be more clear about the result or pain you fix. They're all character traits, but actually what you really want to be known as is the most amazing interior design, home interior design company in this place. And many, many companies will say, and that's the thing we've got to thread. Yeah, a creative interior design business or home interiors business that will amaze your neighbors or something like that. You need to kind of really go, this is the thread we want to do. And it's almost like a campaign slogan. I'm not saying you put it everywhere but it is a campaign slogan. And if you look at, one of my favorite actors is Liam Neeson. Yes. Choose what you want to be remembered for. So everybody, hopefully you're all familiar with the actor Liam Neeson. If you please say yes or no in the chat, and hopefully you're as much a movie buff as me. But Liam Neeson was that's a good one, Sheridan. And so that becomes what Sheridan's put there is designing interiors that transform and showcase your life. That's really cool. So that becomes the what we call the big promise of your brand, the big promise of your personal brand and who you are. So Liam Neeson, up to the Taken series of films, had done lots of weird and wonderful different types of movies. And, he was relatively well known, but not the household name that he's become today. And he has a specialist set of skills, and he will find you. And what happened was Liam Neeson has now been effectively typecast into this not quite James Bond, but a very clever specialist assassin stroke fighter stroke what have you. And if you look at pretty much all of his films since Taken, they are a spin on the typecast character that Liam Neeson has become. Every film is more or less him rescuing somebody from a bad group of people. And pretty much every film plays out kind of that way. He's ended up typecast into a particular type of role. And he's done very, very well financially from allowing himself to be typecast into a very particular role. Now, one of the things that happens to us is typecasting can feel, because we have a broad set of skills, we have a broad set of knowledge, there's lots of different aspects to who we are and what we're about, we can feel uncomfortable allowing this to happen. But actually, it's probably the biggest source of impact and revenue you can have by getting yourself labeled by an audience for a specific thing. It's how you end up with some of the big brands that we have today, where they've established a market leadership position because their target audience know them so well, to the point where in some industries, the name of the company actually is synonymous with the service or products they offer. And so you see this when you think of electric cars, you think of Tesla. Yeah. They have dominated that space and built a massive brand. But actually, if you look at, say, something like Tesla, it's been built off the founder's personal brand. The founder's personal brand has built the business. Hoover is another one, Nicole has said. And so one of the things that's going to be difficult for you is when you're doing posts, you almost have to become a stuck record. And that seems really tough, because it feels like, well, it's liberating and it's frustrating as well. Because effectively for you, you're writing pretty much the same message in different ways all the time. Yeah, we get fed up of that, don't we? I've said that before. I wanted to say something new. No, just say the same thing different ways. Just consistently say the same thing in different ways. If you write a blog, do a video. If you write about this aspect, tweak it a little bit and put another spin on it. But fundamentally, the bit that people get stuck on social media is we don't want to keep saying the same thing. And what I'm saying to you is, you are going to say the same thing. That's the nature of personal branding. Maybe not exactly the same thing. You might put a different spin on it, but that's really what you've got to do. So you have to decide what you're going to be known for. Then you have to kind of map out all of the different ways you can express that through case studies, pictures, quotes, articles, little tips, myth-busting posts, actionable posts, all of those things surrounding that core message you want people to remember. You don't have to, and actually the probably the weakest form of personal branding is just saying the same catchphrase over and over and over again. That does work, the same catchphrase over and over and over again. And if you look in politics, that happens all the time. Yeah, Annette has got a good point there. Tesco, British retailer, has said the same thing for 30 years. Every little helps, every little helps, every little helps. And it becomes ingrained into people. But in a personal brand concept, they are saying it at the end of a commercial to show that every little helps. Yeah. Every time they're showing it, they're expressing it in a different way. It might be there as a strap line, but actually they express that strap line through their adverts, through their marketing materials, through their free magazine that they do. And so you've got to do the same. Find that kind of strap line, that choice of what do I want to be remembered for? And I'd encourage you, it's probably a big pain or a big win, a big result that you can bring to that client. That's probably what you want to be remembered for, because all the other stuff, being a good person, trustworthy, all of that stuff you can solve in multiple content pieces. Like, for an example, one of the things I say to people is if you want to build your personal brand and use it to basically build your business, you have to be visible. Not just in terms of let's promote my business and, put our branding up and all that kind of stuff. That's nice, but you have to kind of show up yourself. So people have to engage with you as a person, because it's not just this is what I want to be remembered for. It's how you want to be remembered as a person. What makes it personal is you, is me, my personality, my nature, my mannerisms, the way I approach things, the way I explain things. People will either like it or they won't. So yes, I want to be remembered for something. That's important. And yes, I've got to consistently put that theme through every piece of content I produce. But also I've got to show up, which is making yourself quite vulnerable. But I've got to show up because people latch onto other people. And so some people joining this tonight will go, this is a bit boring. He's just talking to a camera. I'll switch off. And other people will go, I like the way it's just a conversation. I like the way he's just talking about things that he knows about and he's sharing it. So that is the nature of the way this works, personal branding. It's the clear, what do you want to be remembered for? It's the threading of that key message through everything that you put out into the world. And then it's you visibly showing up. So how do I do that? I do things like this. I do webinars for free and add value so that people will go away and hopefully share things and recommend us and see where we can help them. And then, of course, there is posts where I share pictures of me and what I'm up to, so that people get to know a bit more about me, because people buy from people. They don't buy from logos. They don't buy from faceless websites. They buy from the personality that they've engaged with. So Apple as a brand has a personality, but Apple has spent a long time building that. If you're a small business owner or an employee and you want to use your personal brand to build your own influence in the market, it has to be you. You have to show up. You have to be visibly represented. So I'll do lives on my LinkedIn profile on a regular basis. I'll share pictures. I'll put quotes up that I'm sharing. I'll put pictures of me with a tweet on top, just so that people see it. It's quite uncomfortable to do as a British person, where you're basically from birth ingrained to be more reserved. But it's something you have to do so that people get to know you. And they buy into you, and then they buy into your products and services because they've got to know you. And that's really the simple stages of building a personal brand. You've got to be known for something, one key thing that you can land in seconds. What's the thing you want to be known for? Number two is get that threaded through every piece of content that you do. You don't even have to overtly say it, but make sure it's clear that you are what that statement is. Yeah. Number three is you have to visually, like this, as pictures, videos, show up, and the words need to come out your mouth. And this is really important if you're selling, as somebody said there, coaching, or anything like that, where people are buying into your expertise, because it is a personal decision that people buy into you. Hopefully this line's still working. Yes, Chris said very good. Visual representation is indeed very, very important. It humanizes your brand. It makes you real. It makes you tangible for other people. Instead of, if you think about it, what a lot of people are doing to try and promote their services is blast out their brand, blast out their message, broadcast, but without any personification, without any humanization, without any connection. And that's where it becomes really important. I would argue without you getting that your personality across in some way, shape, or form, it's very difficult for you to build a personal brand because the personal bit is missing. And I found this when I started on LinkedIn properly in 2015. At the very beginning, I shared lots of good motivational, inspirational quotes, but people didn't know Dean. And it's only as I've invested more time and overcome my own hang-ups and fears about doing stuff like this and putting my picture out. You know, for a long time, I was like, what if people think I'm full of myself by putting a picture of myself? Well, social media has moved on and everybody does that now, but that might be a concern for some people. What if I put a picture out of myself and people think I'm just arrogant? You can't control what people think of you in that sense. And you just have to be you, and people will get you or they won't get you. And that's the reality. You can't have a place where everybody gets you. That's not going to work. And the more you try to pursue being liked by everybody, the more vanilla your personal brand will become. Now, I know in interior design, creams and pastels and beiges have become really in, but actually, as a personal brand, you do not want to blend into the background. That said, if you look at some of the things that have happened where people have built very big personal brands very quickly, they focused in on polarity. Now, I want to talk about this for a minute, but I really wouldn't advise you to play this game because it can go horribly, horribly wrong. So polarization of people is one of the fastest ways to build a tribe. Now, one of the things you can do, obviously, if you do videos like this, some people will love me, some people won't like me, and some people are like, I don't know. And that's fine. But if you deliberately set out to polarize, it can be very effective. But the problem is you have to constantly raise the stakes of polarization to keep that audience engaged. And one of the most obvious examples of that currently is Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, for those of you who don't know, rose to fame and fortune on social media, particularly TikTok, by posting, and that he didn't post them, in fact, highly controversial video tips. Some of them weren't that controversial, but some of them were very controversial. And it garnered him a large following to, I think, last week he was the most Googled man alive. And he did this. He had a questionable business model about how he did it, which resembles a pyramid. But he built this massive personal brand. And he deliberately chose, and I've seen some of the things about the strategy behind what he was doing, he deliberately chose to polarize people and provoke people. And this is a little bit more common on LinkedIn too. And you can a little bit provoke and polarize. The problem comes is that when you polarize too much, it can have very damaging effects. So for an example, if you don't like me today, you're going to go and sign off. That was a waste of time. I'm not going to listen to him again. Over and done with. But what he was doing was provoking some people to passionately disliking him. Yes, David, Andrew Tate. He provoked some people where the polarization was so strong. He had a group of diehard fans and a group of people who were committed to his social media eradication. And that's the danger when you polarize too far, is what you can do is eventually destroy your own brand. So for most people watching this, that Andrew Tate scenario is absolutely irrelevant. You don't even need to worry about it. But what I want to talk about is polarizing is if you've got an opinion in your topic area that you think helps people think differently, be passionate about it. Be respectful about it. Don't attack other people. Promote your ideas and your way and your thoughts on something around the key message that you want to be remembered for. There's nothing wrong with having an audience where some people disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you go too far, you polarize to the point where you end up with an anti-group. Not just the people who don't, not keen or not interested, anti. In other words, they're passionately against you. And I don't think anybody should set out to do that. So that's really, really important. Yeah, Annette, I think you're so right. There's been so much polarization lately because it's such an effective tool for mobilizing a core crowd. It has been here evidently. And I just want to kind of give you some examples of where this repetition, because most people tell me, oh, Dean, I'm sick of saying the same things on social media. Well, if you're saying exactly the same thing on social media, then it's a problem. But if you're just repurposing your messaging and shifting your messaging around, then that's absolutely to be expected. One of the things that's tough for us to get is we see everything we post. We read it, we examine it, we go over the coals with it, we see it over and over and over again. We probably look at our own posts far too much. But most people just glance at them. They did a quick take and move on. So when you're worried about people seeing too much of the content that's just saying similar stuff and along the same lines, what you're getting fatigued at saying the same thing at the point where people are just starting to pick up on what you're saying. 7 to 15 times somebody needs to hear your message on social media before they get it. 7 to 15 times. So by the time you're on, post number 6 or number 7, and you're going, oh, I'm sick of talking about this stuff. Surely I'm putting people off and all this stuff. They're just picking up on it. And so I'm not saying post exactly the same thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if my job is to help you raise your profile, I want Dean to be known as the person of, if you want to grow your business on social media and you want to do it with as least selling as possible, Dean is your man. Maverick is your company. So I will nuance that through everything that I do. How can I help you grow your business, acquire more clients with as little selling as possible? So I will talk about lots of different things. I'll talk about LinkedIn outreach. I'll talk about content. I'll talk about building a crowd. I'll talk about converting that crowd into paying clients. I'll talk about all these things, building your personal brand, getting your message out, finding the best offer that people will latch onto and people will want to buy. How do you position your service so that it appeals to people who are ready to buy? All of those things are messages within my core message, which is, if you want to grow your business organically through social media with as little selling as possible, Dean and Maverick is your go-to place. So I can talk about lots of things, but it is repetitive, and it should be repetitive. What you post tomorrow, if you just think, oh, I've got to do a new post all the time, you're going to get stuck. And so I'd advocate you looking back through your old posts and saving your old posts and going, how can I update this and reuse it again? Because your audience is transient. Yes, some people stay around, but every day you will have probably, 20, 30, 40, 50% of your audience will be brand new on social media. 30, 40% of it will be brand new, say. It's probably more than that on LinkedIn. It might be less than that on some other platforms like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. Actually, TikTok, it could be the other way around. You could have 80%. But a good chunk of your audience is transient. So they don't see everything. They see one thing a week or two things a week. They might see nothing one week. So you going, I've got to make new over and over again. Actually, you can just repurpose something you posted a month ago and make an updated version. or 6 weeks ago you put a video out, so you could maybe put that out again. Yeah, you don't have to keep making it. Now, you want to put some fresh stuff in there, but fundamentally you're on repeat. You're on repurpose and repeat, repurpose and repeat. And it gets a lot easier because then you're just talking about the same thing. You are deliberately choosing to typecast yourself. You're choosing to label yourself, and so you should be repeating the same message. Now, I'll just give you a couple of little reminders of this on a personal branding front. It's slightly different, but I'll just stretch the example so you understand it. There are people right now making hundreds of thousands of pounds every year by going to events and giving the same talk over and over and over again. There are comedians traveling the country telling the same jokes over and over and over again. There are musicians and recording artists who are traveling the world singing songs and performing songs that they produced 20 and 30 years ago, and they're still making a very good living doing the same songs that they did. Now, at some point, I'm sure you'll want to update and modify and develop your personal brand. But the key thing right now is to build that. You have to be that stuck record. And Sharon said he knows some of them. David, yes, if it's exactly the same stuff, exactly, yes, that can be a bit monotonous. But you should always go, if I've done a post before, can I put a fresh spin on it? Can I say something new? Can I add a bit more depth to it? Can I give it a little different angle? Not exactly the same post, but yes, that is how you get known for it. But David, equally, you're saying stopped following someone who had, because I got tired of the same old, same old. That's just the nature of the beast, by the way. So you might not be that person's fit. Yeah. And that's nothing to say about you. It's just you didn't click with them. But if you look at a lot of the people doing very well in the business world, they are saying more or less the same things over and over again. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions tonight? I'm gonna kind of just do a little reminder of some of the things I think you should be doing. I am doing a session next Tuesday, which is a bit more in depth, a bit more interactive. So instead of it being live on LinkedIn, I'm going to do it on Zoom. And if you go to our, I will send you the link to it tomorrow if you want to come. We'll actually workshop personal branding. So what I've covered tonight, we'll go into a little bit. It's free. We can go into a little bit more depth, and you can contribute in a kind of group call if you want to. You can just sit back and watch other people interact and share personal branding talk issues and challenges. But what we're going to do is go, okay, how do we define that statement? How do we create that statement that tells people how I want to be labeled? And then how do we put that into posts and content and weave it through what we're doing? And then obviously, how do we make sure that we show up? What's some of the ideas of how we can show up to represent that and personify that? How can we use polarization, or where is a good place to use polarization? So Danny's put a good question there. How much impact does visual branding come into play? Well, Danny, I would argue that an element of visual consistency is important. So by that, I mean that if you have color schemes, you stick to them. You kind of, I wouldn't want you to take advice that you should be rigidly stuck to them, but you should have some boundaries so that visually you look consistent. So often I have a color scheme that I use. Maverick has a slightly different color scheme, but my color scheme is usually, it's white. It's a very vibrant kind of blue and black. So you'll see that. And generally, if I'm doing a quote with me on it, it will be the vibrant blue background with a picture of me looking better than tonight, usually, and some text. And I've chosen a font. I do think that's important, but you don't want to go too far that you don't look personable. Yeah, you don't want to seem silly. You don't want to look too slick, because that can eliminate some of the humanization of you, the humanity of you, which is what makes people draw towards you. It's what people get to bond with you and connect with you. So yes, it's visually important. Visual consistency is important. Your style and tone is important. But if you're starting this journey from the beginning, I wouldn't try and do that too early. I would find your feet first and then adopt some visual consistency. Bassett, sure, ask a question. Krisha, in all honesty, one of the challenges is there is a lag between you taking action and people starting to understand what you do. But what I would say is one of the easiest ways to do that is look at how your engagement on your non-personal content changes. So if I do, I've recently started doing live videos every morning. The first few I did, which was brand spanking new, it was like quiet. And now when I do them, I have a lively group of people talking and chatting. I'm getting 2,000, not massive views, but I'm getting 2,000 viewers on these lives when I do them in the morning, 7 o'clock. So you build something. And there is a lag between it. But what I would do is start with looking at what are my metrics that I'm looking at now. And LinkedIn's great for that. So you can look at all of your stats, your likes, your comments, your impressions, views, viewers. Look at those where they are now. And particularly on videos, look at how long people are starting to engage with you. That's what I would track. Bassett, please do ask your question, because I'm going to, if there's no more question, I'm going to wrap up in a second. So I would record your stats today, and I would look at primarily engagement to begin with for the first few weeks. See, how do I grow that engagement and see that? And then I would look at, okay, what's the depth of viewing? How long are people spending on my videos? Is it 10 seconds? And you can do the maths on this by looking at a video on LinkedIn and go, this is how many minutes has been viewed and this how many viewers. And you can start to go, okay, people are starting to watch 25%, 35%, 45%. But I would expect there to be a lag between you seeing the benefit or starting to see the green shoots of it. And ultimately, you just have to consistently do it, consistently deliver that message. And that takes some time. And the other thing you can do is also go outbound engaging with people, engage with people. If you want to build that traction a little bit quicker, and this seems a little bit naughty, but it's not. If there's people who have maybe not the same thing as you, but maybe they have a bigger following than you, but they are actually in the same space. So this might not work for everybody, but if they're in the same space, but they maybe have a bigger following than you, you can engage with their content and add to the discussion. Comments are content too. Comments are content too. So I'm not saying go spam comment on people's profiles, say, hey, come follow me because I'm better. I'm saying add to the discussion on people who's got a bigger following than you. So if there's some coaches here, you might decide to contribute to people like Marshall Goldsmith or Tony Robbins. They're the big ones. If there's some other people, add to their discussion. You can draw and people can see your value too, but you're also adding to the other people's conversation. Oh, Bogdana's got a good question. We have more than one business. Our personal brand covers it all in a way, or we brand ourselves in relation to the one business in particular. What would you suggest? It really depends on how different those businesses are. So if there's a big gap in those businesses, if there's even, say, for an example, a big gap or a different target audience, that's going to be difficult. Annette, commenting is the currency of LinkedIn. Yes, it's the best way to build relationships. But also, if somebody's got a big following and you start to add meaningful comments, you will grow an audience of people who engage with their content too. So yes, it's a great way to build relationships, and it's a great way for people to discover you too. So yes, Bogdana, in your scenario, it depends how different the audiences are and how different the service is. So what I'd suggest, and this is another way to do it, it's slightly tricky to do this, but you may choose to appeal to different people on different platforms. So it could be, for an example, Dean does this on LinkedIn, but on Twitter, he's doing this. Now, that's a stretch, but it is one way of countering it. It's one way, if you've got two different audiences or two different emphases, you could do that way. Bassett, I've been creating Instagram Reel videos lately to help people ace up their design skills and some tips on how to use Photoshop. So I've been having a problem with staying consistent with this because I don't know how many days I should keep posting per week to keep up with consistency. That's a really good question, Bassett. So Bassett, what I would suggest you do is get a piece of paper and mind map out your topic. So Photoshop, big topic. So what you can do is one of the challenges is you will run out of ideas. And in order for you to sustain what you're doing, it has to be quick, right? So if you think about this, whatever you're going to output has to be quick to do, because otherwise you can't sustain it. So what you can do is mind map out Photoshop. Okay, I'm now going to go into different areas, different tools. So you could map out the different tools that people find challenging. So you could Google it, but then break them down about application. So how to remove a background, say, yeah. So that's one big feature. How to remove a background from a photograph. How to remove a background from a stock image. How to remove a background. And basically what you can do is do different emphases of the same thing. And then don't put them all out in one go, but basically you can split them up. So David, we will email you if you registered on LinkedIn or YouTube, which you have done because you're here. You'll get tomorrow a replay link. And we'll also send you the link to the workshop, which is where we can interact and go into this in more depth. It's free, but we'll send that to you as well. So Bassett, that's what I would do, is I would mind map out Photoshop, removing backgrounds, and then the different types of backgrounds you might want to remove. And then I could go, okay, removing backgrounds and adding perspective, and do that. But do it for different aspects, different elements. So for a social media post, for this, for that, and for the other. And then you can basically do the same thing, but with a slightly different emphasis, and then spread them out over time. The nature of social media, if you look at a lot of the big social media influencers, a lot of their content is a form of repetition. It is a form of repetition. Okay. Guys, I'm going to just sign off now because it's gone a little bit quiet on the other feeds. Please, I'm just going to be really cheeky. Could you do me a favor? Wherever you're watching tonight, please do give us a follow, a like, or come find me and follow and connect and what have you. That would really appreciate that. And of course, if you get stuck, drop me a message. I'm on all the good ones: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We'll not talk about that today. Come find us, do the whole likes, comments, follows. I really appreciate that. It helps us get the message out. So really do appreciate that. And I'll send you the link to register for the free session next Tuesday. It's not live, it's on Zoom, so you can say hello. You can of course sit there quietly and watch, but if you want to come and go, how does this work? We can share screens, we can do all that stuff so that you can and make this more practical. So thank you so much for joining. Carl, sorry I didn't say hello earlier, but hi. I will be back live when I'm back home. I'm out in Watford at the moment, so I'm doing this live from my hotel room in Watford. So thank you again for joining me. Appreciate every one of you to come, all your questions, all your comments, and your follows. And I'll see you next week.